Hi, this is Devin Foley, CEO of Charlemagne Institute here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and welcome to another episode of Countdown to the Election by the First Tuesdays Conservatives, co-hosted by Alpha News as well as Charlemagne Institute, which publishes Intellectual Takeout and Chronicles magazine. Today we have Katie Hopkins with us, a Brit who is on a mission to help America, and we're very excited to be able to have her on. She's also doing some wedding planning for us, as you can see behind it. Katie, recommendations for how many tiers of a cake?
Yes, well, clearly in my new role as a wedding planner here in my office, I've got some excellent cakes to recommend to people. Personally, I think now people are going for something a little less over the top, a little less over embellished. It's 2020 after all, so more lockdown kind of wedding cakes is what we're after. But yes, if anyone wants to plan their wedding, please do give me a call here in the office at the hotel I'm at on the shorefront in Jersey, and I can help make that event happen for you, as long as the Democrat governors allow more than one person to gather in a room, because obviously a wedding's going to require two.
Perfect. I'm a big fan of the buttercream icing over that other stuff. Doesn't taste as good.
Yeah, so actually I'm here. Someone's kindly lent me their office in this very beautiful hotel, and the host here is absolutely fabulous. But I'm on the Jersey shoreline ahead of a massive rally tonight at the Skyland Stadium. Anybody who happens to be listening to this that might be in the New Jersey area, we're expecting a crowd of 5,000 to 6,000 people. There's skydivers, there's fireworks. It's proper grassroots country people, Trump supporters, and I'm headlining there. So it's going to be a really great event. I'm very excited for it. But yes, that explains why I'm currently looking like I come from some other turf. I don't currently look like either the biggest bitch in Britain or a massive Trump supporting Nazi, racist, Islamophobe, misogynist, which is, the normal kind of stuff that comes along with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It comes with the territory these days. So what stands out to you? I mean, you're trotting around the country. You were in Miami the other day. What are you sensing out there as far as energy, interest, how things are going?
Yeah, so I guess a couple of things. Number one, British people aren't allowed into America at the moment. I had to break into your country, and I was determined not to watch this fight from the UK. It's too important to us. And people have, we criticize whatever we do, and I respect that. That's an opinion. But people say, well, what's the point of a British person? We don't need foreigners here. We don't need foreign election interference. I think we all learned our lesson. But ultimately, America is our hope as well. I speak for no one but myself, but British people, many great, decent Brits who voted Brexit, who are proud patriots, we stand with you. We are sorry that you may have the impression that Britain doesn't stand with you, but decent Brits do. So I broke back into your country through isolation, through a number of ways that I got in, I broke in. I'm an illegal, but without any of the benefits that your Mexicans seem to get. And since then, 3.5 months, I've been on the road, traveling through California, Dallas, Minnesota, DC, Florida, and now New Jersey, purely I believed I was campaigning for Trump, like I'm going to make Trump win, whatever it takes. But actually something very different has happened. And this whole adventure has become about making people feel better, about giving people reason to gather, about giving people opportunity to articulate how they're actually feeling, this is a difficult and dark time for so many people. And these events on our side has just been uplifting. And what's been so genius about this whole lockdown and Democrat governors is it's proven that that is not the side you want to be on. And so it's actually been really unifying. I have spent little time pushing hard on Trump policies or red versus blue. This is about bringing people together. This is the side to be on. And this is about now American values. And that's what this has turned into. This is a celebration of American values and a re-articulation of our determination to stand up for those values or even to fight for those values. And so it's become kind of epic. It's become biblical in scale, and I love it.
So America, essentially the last great hope for Western civilization and our way of life. I mean, is that fairly accurate as far as how a lot of Brits view us and the importance of what's happening right now?
It's exactly that, you know, without wishing to go too much into the darkness.
Yes.
And also to preface, if I may, I love my country and I signed up to fight for my country. I went through the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. I signed up for 35 years in the Intelligence Corps. So I'm a patriot through and through, but my country will fall to Islam. And within 5 years, I will be a minority in most towns and cities in my country. And by 10 years, I'm a minority in my own land. And we are being pushed out. Jewish people are leaving in their thousands. Christians are looking for a way out. We don't have an Israel, but we look to Hungary and Poland and Eastern Europe where we will regroup. So yeah, Western civilization is being upheld by America. And that's very much, you know, if I feel it directionally, you know, if I'm looking across the pond, I'm looking to America and really the front line of that war, of this battle, is your Second Amendment.
You have to have the second to preserve the first, as a lot of Americans will say. Digging deeper into that, what happened to the United Kingdom to Britain? In the span of a century, you went from the greatest empire in the history of the world, sun never sets, fighting World War I was certainly a painful period and enormous amount of blood loss, and then World War II coming back victorious. But even in World War II, Winston Churchill, the man leading Britain during that period, is booted out of office before the war is even over. And I'm just curious, how did this happen so quickly?
So quickly.
What would you tell to Americans who are concerned? Because we seem to be going through the process, but with a couple, you know, a decade or maybe 2 decades lagging behind.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You know, for me as an observer, an outsider, we're all on this kind of spectrum, you know, and I've spent a lot of time in South Africa with my, you know, South African family. And by that, I don't mean blood relatives. I just mean a sense of who we are. And whites in South Africa are down to 3%. You know, this Friday, there are talks that, you know, civil war could be unleashed in the death of another white farmer and the potential for his killers to be released. But anyhow, they are way down that path. So they're down to 3%. We're not far behind them. So we are following South Africa down that path. And what happened, and the reason for the speed of the fall, is that because before you realize the takeover has happened, structurally, fundamentally, the scaffolding of the thing, the foundations of the thing have been excavated away from your country, and you are overtaken before you see it happen. And that's precisely what's happened. It's precisely why every single town and city in the UK is run by a Muslim mayor, that our law courts are now Sharia courts attached to a mosque, that in fact the imam is the most powerful man in a British town or city, and that an imam, and I have this firsthand from police officers, serving police officers, imams select the police that they're willing to have police the areas that they control. And, you know, we can look to that and think, oh, that's terrible. What a terrible thing to happen to Britain. But, you know, having spent a good week or so in downtown Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside, looking at your candidates, Keith Ellison passing the baton to Ilhan Omar, I know how this works. And Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis and Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside, they're following the same playbook. You know, before we know it, Michigan, Dearborn, I've been inside that mosque. You know, you guys are following right behind us. And so it's a dark thing, but it's a truth. And it's something we have to fight back really hard, really fast with an emergency. You know, this is an emergency of Western civilization.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things, too, that's taking place in Minnesota that, you know, what you were saying about the United Kingdom reminds me a lot of. It's not just the fact that you have a very large Somali community here in Minnesota that is not assimilating. And I can tell you that firsthand, and it's growing rapidly. And right now, of course, there are a lot of issues with crime. There, of course, is Project Veritas's release of voter fraud within the community. But outside of Minneapolis, in what's considered what we call outstate Minnesota, there have also been refugees planted in small towns all across Minnesota. So you may have a population of 2,000 people, skews much older just because of the economy and how things work now. And in that, they might put 500 Somali refugees. And if you know, as you did, if you run the birth rates forward, you're a decade or so from having islands of Islam all across Minnesota, which
I know, and
situation.
You know, there's this sort of hygienic thing that Americans and British people and others, this is not a criticism of any one nation, do. So what people do is they hunker down. They don't go look at it. Or let's stay in our nice suburb and let's hammer in a Biden sign or a Harris sign. Let's pretend it's going to be okay. Let's not go to Cedar Riverside. And I'm coming back to Minnesota and Minneapolis because my conscience dictates that I must. And my challenge to Minnesotans is come with me. You know, I'll take you by the hand. I will take you to Cedar Riverside. Come sit with me. Come watch. Come see what America looks like, because it's unbelievable what you'll see there. And anything that you think you might preserve yourself with your Biden sign, that is not going to preserve you when the mob comes again, and they're coming. I've spent time up at the George Floyd Memorial as a, supporter to get the truth from those people. They told me direct, we're going to take that sign, the 38th Street sign, we're going to take it to the suburbs, and we're going to bring George Floyd to the suburbs. And the suburbs, I was there with the ladies sipping their wine, telling me that they hear gunshots sometimes now in the evening. They hear gunshots, and I want to scream at them. They're going to come. On the 4th of November, if this goes the way I think it's going, the mob will rise again. And the reason I'm coming back to Minneapolis is I will go on preparing. People need to prepare. And it's no good putting your head down. It's no good thinking your Biden sign will protect you. It's no good not being ready, because the other side are not going to take this well. And I personally believe we are going to turn Minnesota red.
Well, and this brings up another Project Veritas success, uncovering in Colorado, a Democratic operative who, behind the scenes to the video, was going on about, if it goes the wrong way for them, he's spending November 3rd in his garage next to his guns, and begins to talk about, if it goes wrong, that this revolution that they are attempting to achieve doesn't stop just because the election was lost and President Trump was reelected. He's talking about shooting conservatives randomly on the streets, bringing back the guillotine, all of this. And you'd say that's just rhetoric, but now we've seen people. You look at Utah a while back. You just had somebody that got caught in an Antifa BLM blockade of a road, and they just started shooting them at the vehicle. And this violence, there is a will to power that I think that we really do have to come to terms with. Where does Antifa stop and BLM, or do they not stop? Do they go? Are these people who are dedicated to go all the way?
Yeah, and you don't need to be Project Veritas to find out this stuff. You can be a little British woman that cares enough to break into a country and spend time alone on the sidewalks listening. And it's coming. On the 4th of November, it's coming. And the reassuring and the deeply positive thing that I found and been moved to, there's been a lot of tears on this journey, not my own necessarily. Listening to a lady from Portland tell me to my face, they'll come, they're coming, they will burn down Oregon. They will burn, and they're already battling wildfires as it is, but they're coming, they're going to burn us down. But they should know, when they come for me, I'm now doing this for my grandchildren. I've had my life, I've had my time, and I'm ready. And her message is, you come on my property, you won't leave it. And the thing I am reassured, but also anxious for, is that you cannot buy a weapon in America right now. Go through California, there is not a weapon you can purchase. Go try buy ammo, do it tomorrow. You will not find any. I know people in Beverly Hills being supplied ammunition by their contacts in the sheriff's office. This is what's going on in America. People are preparing. And what worries me is not the people preparing, because we're going to be ready, and Antifa will not stop, and they are looking for civil war. What worries me is the people who still have their heads down, their eyes down, politely living in the Minnesota suburbs, pretending it's not going to happen, thinking their yard sign will protect them. This is what's making me anxious, and the reason I'm coming back. But we are going to go to the very edge of darkness. But anybody with any kind of, you don't have to be a believer, but any sort of biblical references in your life, or even historical ones, is that sometimes we have to take ourselves to the edge of darkness in order to find a cure. And I have my own, analogies for that. I was once a chronic epileptic. My seizures were going to kill me. To cure myself, I had surgery that takes you to the edge of life. I reconciled with that a long time ago. I don't have seizures anymore. I'm already on extra time. But my point is that we have to take ourselves to the edge of the thing to find a cure. And for many of us who are already reconciled with the end, whenever it may come, grandma from Portland or me, because I'm on extra time, there's no fear. And that's the joy. And that's what our side has to do. And that's what we have to work hardest at, is trying to relinquish fear. And we know that that's what lockdown was about. We know that's what the COVID stuff's about. We know they're trying to drive fear into us. And when people ask me, Katie, as an individual, what's the thing I can do? What can I do? My thing is always live your life every day as freely as you possibly can, because that's how we all fight back for freedom. Grown men like yourself are the people who have spent time crying on my shoulders this last 3 months because they've lost everything. Jobs, wives, children, hope, pride, everything. And we have to hold on to our side at the moment and help people, give people something to hold on to. That's our job, actually. I think our side spends too much time talking old talking points and re-articulating things we already know. We have to do a better job of holding on to our side right now.
Well, people are beaten down. You have people that are fighting off regular anxiety attacks. They're almost anyone I run into is reporting the sort of cloud of angst and doom that seems to be over them. And it almost reminds me of animals. Supposedly before a tsunami hits, the animals all go into the interior and up into the mountains, and it gets very quiet. It seems as if it is that time. But to your point, courage is required. And, courage isn't being fearless. It's actually being afraid, but knowing that you still have to do it and overcome the fear to achieve what's necessary. And that's courage. It's overcoming that fear. And so, Katie, when you're talking to people, what are some of the things that are uplifting? What is it that, I had my own mom cry on my shoulder that, she felt like she was losing her country. And we see that. So what are the things uplifting that you're sharing with people?
Yes, and I understand that with your mom. I have emails, every day from people. The people used to email me about my country and say, they're glad their time is nearly, 70, 80-year-olds. I'm glad my time is nearly up so I don't have to see my country fall. I mean, really, I just got an email this morning from a gentleman who's 21 years old, and he's the opposite of a supporter. So, in England, with their school to know me as a monster. And he emailed because he just lost his brother, 25-year-old, just walked in front of a train. Nice. And he's asking how he should cope. How does he cope? And he's asking someone who maybe he has been taught to perceive as an enemy, how we cope. And so there is much joy to get to your question. The joy comes in different ways. Let me give you one example. This is a good story. I went into USPS, so United States Post Service. Yes, I have to check I get it right, to post something. And there's a guy behind the counter, right? He's got blue hair in a mohawk, right? It's great. I mean, it looks great. But I'm like, okay, he's a Democrat. So Katie, behave, no Trump stuff, no nothing, just post the letter, be quiet. So going along. And then a lady comes next to me to the next counter to post something. Now, she's been locked down. She's an elderly lady, and everybody's lost their sense of respect. And some people are overtly aggressive for no apparent reason. So she comes in, not with a wedding book, but I'm using it as a thing, pointing at the thing that didn't get mailed the way she wanted, pointing at the staff, angry, mask on, whatever, frustrated. So, you know, I just, that's what I'm just calling this stuff out. So I stop what we're doing. I turn to the lady, pull my mask down, and say, I'm very sorry if you're going to speak to these representatives in that manner. I'm going to need to ask you to leave this store. And she left the store. At which point the guy behind the counter, and you know, it's a British thing. My accent gets me away with a whole load of stuff right now, but we're not taking that kind
It
of.
really does.
So anyway, so I say to the guy with the blue hair, because my mask's down, I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot. And he lifts up his visor, pulls down his mask, and he goes, actually, I'm with you. I think it's a load of nonsense as well. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So then I'm all in. So now I'm like, well, actually, hold on, where's my thing? Here. I'm a massive Second Amendment supporter and a massive Trump supporter. And he went, I'm a Trump supporter too. And that's in California in a USPS with a guy with blue hair. And the point of that very long story is that these are the moments of joy. Lyft driver, who turns out he's with us, the Uber driver lady who I got in her car a $32 fare to the airport, and she cried because it was the best fare she'd had. And she sees how some people are trying to make this okay. And that's why she's now going to vote Trump. Like, it's overwhelming. I'm saying 82 million landslide. And the reason is that there is so much hope and joy on our side. And I feel that when we get to bring people together, we get to turn this thing round. So when I get back to LA in 21, 22, 23, I think it is October, you know, there's 3 events there. All of them, they were Zoom people. They've been on Zoom. Zoom is the death of humanity. Nobody should ever be on Zoom. Respectfully, we're on it, but I loathe Zoom and everything about it. It's a crucifier. It's like nailing ourselves to the cross. They were going to be Zoom things, and because I'm in town and because I've challenged them to it, they're now events happening in person. Tickets went before 20 hours. There's a wait list. So my point is, we have to be that person. You know, we have to be the people that individually, you, me, others, we need to challenge everything. You know, the time for asking permission is over, and the time for waiting to be told yes or no is through. And we have to be the people that manifest hope. And so that's, you know, what I've been doing. And when I got here, well, I didn't know I'd get in. I never had a flight home. And then I was like, right, I'm going to stay until the big guy gets in. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I think we can manifest that. We can manifest our own destiny by making it happen. But this darkness is real too. And so I'm asking anybody, you know, if you're out there and you feel alone, let's try and connect you up with other people. You know, it's easy to find me. It's probably easy to find you. And we really need to work hard to do that. We have to get out of studios and comfy rooms and wearing pajamas, and we have to put ourselves on, and we have to go back out. It's really important. It's vital.
Well, and you know, you look at a society that doesn't have an answer for unchosen suffering. You know, everybody runs a marathon, they suffer to be able to, you know, get bulked up, they suffer for different things, but it's something they can control. The tool for, you know, actually dealing with unchosen suffering, something that's coming down upon you, and the way to do that is something that I think, especially Christianity, has to step up on, to be able to teach people to have joy even in the suffering, and to see the suffering as a refinement of us. And so to that very dark place that we may go, there probably is a refinement that's needed for American culture, and an end to the decadence, and a sort of reorienting ourselves to what may be called the permanent things versus just whatever's on sale at Amazon and the latest iPhone and all of that. So
I so agree. I so agree with you. And a couple I was just speaking to, and they live in, you know, Tampa, and some of, you know, very fabulous and very large things and homes and all the rest. And it was a very lovely event. But funnily enough, they just moved into a small condo while they're having their house done up. And the lady, the wife, was saying to me, you know, I don't think we're going to go back. And I think we're going to get all the stuff that we have in storage, and we're going to give it away to whatever. And that was a moment as well, which touched on other people with more simpler lives, but also doing the same, looking at what we're doing with our lives, wondering, did I need that stuff? Is this really, does this make me happy? No, it doesn't. Looking at maybe hurtful or harmful things in our lives and trying to push them away from us, trying to identify where we can find silence and peace in a world of never-ending noise. And of course, I know that starts with turning off the infernal TV, silencing the radio, and finding ways to feel okay again. And actually, these things are schooling us well. I think they're schooling us well in a new way that we will have going forward. And our side has always been fighting uphill. You know, it's why we have very firm buttocks. Our posteriors are far finer than the other side. If you look at a Democrat, there's nothing to look at. Our side, because we fight uphill, that's our truth. And that's true for me too. You know, I've had good schooling in this. I've come from a country where, you know, they took everything I had. The government, the heads of churches, heads of synagogues, charities all came and took my jobs, took my home, come for my children. A couple of jihadis came for my head. You know, we have schooling in this in order to make us the people we need to be. And I think that after the darkness, there will come light, and we will feel like we are kind of rebirthed. But we know that the darkness is coming. But I still say, look at our side. This tonight, you know, the rally. If I could, you know, bottle that and bring it and release it here somehow, I would. And I would say to anybody, even if you're not a supporter, maybe you're not even going to vote Trump, go to a rally, sit aside, sit on your own, don't go near anyone else, just go, just feel it, because it is that uplift, you know, flag waving, horns blaring. It's just about being around other people and trying to remember that we can feel better. But I think you're completely right in terms of a reset.
Yeah,
That's absolutely what's happening.
You know, it's funny, when we mostly engage with millennials and younger Americans, and one of the things we noticed quite quickly was just this search for community, the search for a sense of place, a sense of purpose to life, all of these things. And, you know, I worry in the sense that you do have, you know, a lot of kids who had a tough upbringing or coming out of broken homes and all the rest of it. And they're turning to this BLM Antifa socialism in the hopes that it gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose in life. And it just seems conservatives, we need to do a much better job of that kind of work. And the only way we actually make that possible, though, is acknowledging the Christian faith and how it has been the foundation of Western civilization. It is the thing that gave us the idea of dignity of the human person, all of that. What do you say to that? I mean,
Yes.
It's something we've struggled with, I think, as a movement.
Yeah, you're exactly. And so if I give an example of Pastor Tim Thompson, who I'm sure you would get along mighty fine with. So Pastor Tim Thompson in Murrieta, he has kept his church open this whole time, despite Newsom and his best efforts to vandalize faith. He wears a t-shirt, you know, Pitbull for Jesus, or pedophile hunter, like he's that pastor. So he's, you know, that guy. But because he kept his church open, he stands there. I did 5 services with him when I was in his church. He's had to go to this 5 services on a Sunday because his congregation has grown 5 times. Because even people who are not believers or maybe aren't certain or aren't part of it, they just want to be a part of something that is great that he's doing. It's uplifting. And so, and when I went there, you know, the first thing I noticed, I was like, what is this? What is it? What is it? And it was the noise. It was the noise of people chatting and children running and chairs scraping and the kind of hubbub of people being around people. And that was what church now came to mean. It wasn't anything necessarily devout or enforced or, you know, some sort of regimen. It was the noise of people and humanity coming together. And that's what pastors who keep their doors open are doing. He stood on stage, you know, and he goes, I don't take my orders from government, and I kneel to no man but Jesus Christ. And, you know, that's the stuff to me that and if there's pastors out there who may be listening to you, I guess my challenge is, where are you and why aren't you open? And why do you deserve that large building you have and the support of your congregation if you're not prepared to have the moral courage and the spine to open your doors? And Pastor Tim said, I'll tell you how you open your doors. You take your key, you walk to that door and you open it. And I think that's a message to re-articulate for pastors and others, other faiths who aren't opening their doors. Why not? What is it you fear?
I'm with you exactly. You go back to Christians in the early church. We were the ones going into the plague-infested neighborhoods to take care of the pagans, and it was noticed. It was part of Christianity's allure, and we did it without fear. Or we had fear, but we did it because we knew it was our duty. And to your point, I just like to second that. Christians, why are you scared? If you really believe that God is in control of the situation and it's in some sense on your side or behind you, what is there to fear? And it may be better for us to, be trimmed down a little bit and have to suffer a little bit, but it's important to do. And we're coming up to the bottom of the hour. We'll have to wrap it up. But if I could just add to that for folks, I have 6 kids. I look at my 2-year-old and I ask myself, what's America going to look like in 40 years when he's my age and trying to raise a family and trying to get through life if we don't make some serious changes and corrections? So I am with you there. Katie, any last words you'd like to leave with the viewers and listeners?
Yes, absolutely. I think 2 things, and I'll do them in reverse order. One thing is that I am coming back to Minneapolis. I am coming back to Minnesota. Cedar Riverside should be prepared. But I will be in Blaine on the 19th. And I guess you guys will help maybe push the link and put it out there. But if you can come join me, come join us. Come join a welcome group in Blaine on the 19th of October. I would love to see you there. And we can have more of these conversations. And I promise you, whatever else, you will leave feeling better. And that's a big part of what we're about. And I guess my other message, and more important probably in terms of a leaving message, is, my learning as I have traveled 3.5 months on the road, and I can tell you I'm pretty sick of the sight of my suitcase and everything in it, is that this isn't an election about a red or blue. And this is not an election about Republican or Democrat. And if you hear people churning out the same nonsense, even if you're a fan, Levin, Hannity, whatever, if they're churning the same stuff, turn it off, step away from the noise. This is really now a fight for American values. This is the values of faith, one nation under God. You are not a democracy. You are a republic. Let no man tell you different. This is for our family. Please know your family extends to the UK, and very many great and decent Brits are with you. And we're sorry that you can't hear us louder. And you have your freedom. Because of your Second Amendment, you have your first. I have a car bumper sticker that says, guns don't kill people, but I'm willing to. I'll make good on that on the 4th of November if I'm required. But faith, family, freedom, that's what the 3rd of November is about. And come join our side, come home, because this is the side to be on.
Katie, thank you so much for those just words and encouragement for Americans. We greatly appreciate your time. As always, of course, Alpha News and Charlemagne Institute, we do not endorse any candidates or campaigns or support them or do anything like that, just to be clear. So, but otherwise, thank you again, Katie. This has been great. Another wonderful episode of Countdown to the Election, hosted by First Tuesday Conservative, and then co-hosted by Alpha News and Charlemagne Institute. We publish intellectualtakeout.org, as well as this awesome magazine, Chronicles. If you like what we've been talking about, this intersection of faith, there aren't any wedding, with no cake recipes. I'm sorry. Anyway, just join us. Thank you for spending your time with us. And Katie, Godspeed in all of your voyages going forward.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and all the best to everyone on the team. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.